Just talk about that.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name's John Kirk, and I am not the Kirk that you were expecting on stage. But I want to tell you that I have the great distinct pleasure of welcoming William Shatner to the stage. And I want to say thank you to this man for all the years of entertainment that he's given us. And I want to say thank you for the sense of curiosity that he brings to all of his projects. And I hope that we'll be able to get a sense of wonder from his recent adventures in space. And I want to say thank you because every time somebody hears that my last name is Kirk, immediately I get a sense of renewed self-interest. He makes me cool. Ladies and gentlemen, please, at this time, put your hands together and welcome William Shatner!
The mission of the Enterprise, seek out and contact alien life.
Oh, I'm so sorry to stand and you're sitting down like that. Why haven't you got seats? Why didn't they provide seats for you?
Denigrate.
That's terrible. Hello, fellow Canadians. I haven't said that in years. Fellow Canadians. I lived here for many years in Toronto when I was a young actor. I came from Montreal, and no, don't bother. And I lived. I was a starving actor. I lived on Sherbourne at an old hotel. It was 5 floors up, and the mattress was made of ropes. And I would, every so often I'd come back to my room unexpectedly, and the mice were playing around. And there was a hotel on Sherbourne Street. I think it was called the Sherbourne Hotel, and it had a sign saying all you can eat from 5 to 7 or 6 to 8, all you can eat for $2 or something like that. So I wouldn't eat all day until I went to the Sherbourne cafeteria and ate my one meal of the day for $2. Then something strange happened at the hotel. The character of the hotel changed. At 6 to 8, families, large families, would go in and eat all they could eat for $2. 8 o'clock, the cafeteria closed, and the bar over there opened up, and the hotel was like a brothel. Little kids here? Yes, okay. But it's time that you knew what a brothel was. So I had nothing to do. I didn't know anybody in Toronto. And so I would eat all I could eat, and then I'd go to a table at the bar and sit around with the ladies. And I got really comfortable. A lady would say, excuse me, I have to leave now, and she'd be gone for a while, and then she'd be back at the table and continue the conversation. An interesting thing happened that is something I think about quite frequently, and it's because I feel guilty, and that is, I wrote a drama for CBC, and I met the lady who became my wife as the actress, one of the actresses on the piece that I wrote. And we were engaged. I was working at Stratford as well, so I would call her from Stratford on the telephone so many times that the operator in some place between Stratford and Toronto, somebody got familiar, and they would say, "It's okay, you don't have to pay." And I would talk to Gloria for an hour, and I guess they were listening in, because then the next night, "Oh, it's okay, Mr. Bill, I'll get you Gloria and became like a party line. So Stratford was over, and then we were going to get married, and we went to some theater downtown for some show. Gloria's mother and father and me, her fiance, and we stepped out of the theater. So we're coming out of the theater, and out of the corner of my eye, I see one of the ladies that I knew at a table at the Sherborne Hotel walking the street. And she's coming along here. And she sees me and I see her. Now, we were very friendly. But here I am with my fiance's parents. And so I was torn, and I thought, oh, God, I hope she doesn't say, hello, Bill, you know. And she walks by, and I'm like frozen. I don't know what to do. I don't know whether to recognize her or not recognize her. She goes by, she stands there, and she turns back and looks at me. And the look between us was so complicated. She knew right away the situation. She didn't make any motion towards saying hello. She just looked at me with understanding and left. And I never said anything. And that was so many years ago, and I carry with me that guilt of not, but then, you know, whenever I mention this story, which is infrequent, a discussion results. Like, what would you have done? Should you have said, hi, Mary, it's good to see you. Are you making much money today? I mean, how's it going tonight? You know, and the parents, very upright Toronto parents, you know, wearing gray suits. What did you say, Bill? You know her? You know, I mean, it would have been awful. So I didn't know what to do, but I feel guilty. I can't tell whether you're smiling behind those masks or whether you're like, oh, geez, another terrible story. Okay, so, no, not worthwhile. Toronto, no, we're in Toronto. You don't have to cheer for Toronto. If I say Montreal, 4 people, so then that's from 3 before. So, right now, I have an album out there called Bill. That's as many people as clap for Montreal. So Bill is my latest album, and it's, I don't know how you characterize it, whether it's musical or spoken word, but it's somewhere in the middle. But what is unusual about Bill is it's autobiographical. I don't know of another album like it. If there is, then I'm mistaken when I say it's unique in that there is great musical accompaniment, great names that you would recognize that make it musical. But the one song that I wanted to tell you about was I'd graduated McGill. I had, I know the University of Toronto is very important here, but it doesn't compare to McGill, okay? Lots of applause for McGill, that's great. More applause for McGill than my record, I see. So, it's autobiographical. And so many of the songs are derived from something I might have done, like barely graduate from McGill, work in a summer theater the year I graduated. There was a summer theater in the park in Montreal. And from there, I went to Ottawa to be part of a politician down here just clapped for Ottawa. And now it was time, because I was going back and forth, going back to Montreal fairly frequently, it was time to really leave home. And so I got in this cheap, used Morris Minor. I put all my things in the back seat, and now I'm driving across a bridge. I don't remember which one, but it must have been something over the St. Lawrence River or something like that. And I realized that I was leaving home and I was crossing a bridge. At that moment, an 18-wheeler started coming this way at me. And that pillow of air that they blow in front of them pushed my little Morris Minor almost over to the side. But it didn't go, and in that moment I thought, wow, if I went into the water, all my belongings and me would disappear, and there would be no sign of me having lived on this earth. But I didn't go over the side and continued on. And the song is called The Bridge, because we're all crossing bridges all the time. We're going from one place to another on an adventure, which is our life, and we cross that bridge, and there's always an 18-wheeler coming at us. And we have to survive the 18-wheeler, cross the bridge, and keep on our journey. And that's what the song is all about. So that's the idea behind the album. All right. There's a guy in a yellow shirt. Where is he? Where's the guy in the yellow shirt? What are you doing over there? Come over here. Guy in the yellow shirt. What's your name? Can't hear you, guy in the yellow shirt. What's your name? No, louder, man. Come in. John. Oh. Okay, John. You're there with the microphone, right? So somebody's going to raise their hand to ask a question. Then we'll know what they want to talk about, right? Are you going to watch, John? Oh, you what? You're going to try. Okay. So somebody, please raise their hand. This gentleman right here in the white. See them in the white shirt there? In the white thing? That's it. Go there, John. Make room for John, please. John, the crew. There we go. There, right. That's perfect. Maybe you might take your mask off for this moment and speak in a loud voice and put the microphone right up against his mouth, like back around his glottis. I can't understand a word. The microphone's dead. Try again, John. This whole thing is losing way. All right.
Ex-Montrealer.
Perfect.
Ex-McGill guy.
That's a perfect sound. We can all understand.
I'd like to know what your experience was working in Judgment of Nuremberg.
Really?
Yes, I really do.
Wow. So this gentleman, what's your name?
My name is George.
Was it?
George.
George, have you met John?
Yes.
That's good. So George wants to know about a movie I made many, many years ago called Judgment of Nuremberg, and it got a lot of attention and awards and stuff like that. So, oh my God, that's an old movie, and only one person clapped for Bill. I can't understand it. So Judgment at Nuremberg was like me as a young actor in Hollywood getting a really big break. There were so many big stars of that time. Of course, everybody here has long since forgotten those names, so only people like George and Bill can remember those names. But there was Judy Garland and Spencer Tracy, and I sat at a lawyer's table, and all these people gave testimony at a trial at a city in Germany called Nuremberg. And there was this trial about Nazi criminals, and that was a very passionate subject at the time, should be still, but people have grown to not to remember it as vividly as it was remembered then. So it was a big motion picture, and I was able to sit at this table for weeks on end and see all these famous Hollywood personalities come in, spend a day doing their little testimony, and then leave, and then the drama would continue, and it was like it was the most enormous thing that I could think of, that a young actor looking at all these people, that I would sit in a movie theater in Montreal on Monkland Avenue, the Monkland Movie Theater, And for a coin, 10 cents or 25 cents, you could sit in that theater and watch three, you'd go in about 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, then the movies would change at 6, and then at 9, and there would be 2 movies. So you could see 6 movies for 25 cents. And that was before television. So I would go in there and just look at the silver screen as a kid, 10, 12, 14, 16 years of age, on Monkland and Girouard. Oh my God. Can you remember, I can't remember George's name, but I can remember that block and that theater and the drugstore next to it that made milkshakes. I mean, it was, my whole childhood was back there. And here I was living the dream, looking and watching and talking to these people. Spencer Tracy especially was a famous actor. And I had come from the stage. I'd been at Stratford, expounding a big, I'm a theater actor. I was in New York. I was on Broadway. And then I'm in this movie, and I'm a theater actor. I'm a theater actor. And I didn't know these people's background. So Spencer Tracy has a long speech. And I'm looking at him, and he does the whole speech. He memorizes the whole speech. He's worked on the speech the way you would work on it as if you were in the theater. And I was so used to people in film saying, what's my line and what's in, and do it slowly, bit by bit. Not him, because he too, I learned later, had been in the theater, and he was going back to his roots. He had an opportunity to speak for some length without a film cutting. I was so impressed that I went up to him. By this time, how do you do, Mr. My name is Shatner, and Mr. Tracy. And Mr. Tracy, I was so impressed by the fact that you memorized the whole speech. And he said, I've been in the theater too, Mr. Shatner. And he never spoke to me after that again. All I was doing was trying to compliment him, but this chair just shook. Did you lean against it? Or are we in an earthquake? Canada doesn't have earthquakes. That was Judgment at Nuremberg. I went up into space recently. So here's the thing. Why did I do that? Why did I do that? 2 years ago, a young man, a very talented producer, said to me, hey, Blue Origin is going to send a rocket up, and they're going to invite like 4 or 5 or 6 people to go. It would be a great natural. You go on the Blue. I said, wait a minute. Nobody's interested in me going. Oh, no, Bill, they would. No, they would. So he suggests it to Blue Origin, which is the arm of Amazon that's shooting these rockets up there. And they say, well, come up to Seattle and let's talk about it. So we go up to Seattle, and they say, oh, that's very interesting. I think we should, yes, I think we'll do that. And we leave, and COVID hits, and everything stops, and a year goes by. And then they announce they're going to shoot the rocket up. And my friend, the producer, says, yeah, see, they're going to call any moment. And they don't. They announce that Jeff Bezos, head of Amazon, is going to go up. So I'm thinking, well, Jeff Bezos is going to call me and say, come up with me. And he doesn't. He chooses his brother. So he and his brother and 2 other people go up first. And I say to Jason, the producer, I said, you see, I know, nobody's interested. He said, maybe they'll take you on the second one. I said, but the second one is like being vice president or something. Nobody cares about the second thing. Jeff Bezos went up, and that was it. They asked me to go on the second thing. So I'm thinking, why do I want to do that? Every time my family would go on a roller coaster ride, they'd say, come on, let's go. And I'd say, no, I don't need the thrill of going on a roller coaster ride. I sit in front of a lot of people and don't know what's going to come out of my mouth next. That's a bigger thrill than you can have on a roller coaster. Now, why do I want to go up into space? And why do I want to feel jeopardy? Why do I want to feel like I could lose my life? There's something in me crossing the bridge, I guess. Because a couple of months before I went up there, I did a program with Jeff Gates. I did Shark Week. Why would I want to do Shark Week? And they say, well, we'll go underwater. And I said, okay, I'll do Shark Week. And so I found myself on a boat, because I've been a diver for quite a few years. I'm on a boat outside of the Bahamas with Bahamian experts, and I've got the mask and I've got the tank, and I'm looking down. They're chumming the sharks to make sure the sharks, and I'm looking at a half a dozen sharks swirling around, and the Bahamian experts as well. You see, the most dangerous time with sharks is getting into the water and getting out of the water. And I'm thinking, why am I doing this? What's that? Okay. And I put my hand to my mask, and I jump in, and I get through. And I go down 60 feet, and there's a rock there. And I sit down on the rock to watch what's going to happen. And as I look over there, from here to that young lady, are 4 tiger sharks, 18 feet. So what is it, at 18 feet between you and me here? Is that 20 feet? So somewhere between this distance is this 4 animals this size with mouths the size of this black box. Why am I doing this? Why? I didn't, no answer, but just, my God, look at that. And at one point, the shark started to come this way, and this Bahamian behind me went up and pushed him aside. Wow, my God. And later I said, why were you He said, well, sharks are ambush predators, and they come from behind, so I've got your back. God, what am I doing? And then I look over here, and over here, from here to that speaker, is a lady whom I had met. She had come down as a tourist, and she stayed 30 years because she loved sharks. And she's loving sharks so much that she's surrounded by sharks. She's petting the sharks. And then as I look over there, she comes towards me carrying a 5-foot shark. And she puts the 5-foot shark in my lap. And I'm thinking, what am I doing here? And they're all wearing chainmail in case a shark bites them. I'm not wearing chainmail. Why haven't I got chainmail? And I'm stroking this beautiful little shark, big shark. Now, I had seen, that if you turn a shark upside down and stroke it, it goes into a catatonic faint. They faint. Now, that's bizarre, except that we now know that orcas know that. And how would an orca know to turn? Because they turn great whites, which is the only bigger predator than a tiger shark. They turn great whites upside down, and they stroke him. Nice little white killer, and then they eat its liver. How would they know to do that? So I'm petting this shark, and I'm thinking, oh, it's in a faint. And inadvertently, I put my finger in the gill, and the shark swims off. It wasn't in a catatonic faint. It was alive and ready to bite me, and I wasn't wearing a suit. Now I have to get out. And I remember the guy saying the most dangerous time is getting in and getting out. And so I'm climbing the ladder. I swim up through the sharks, and I'm climbing the ladder, and I know that one of the sharks said to the other, "Look at that asshole." Okay, that's not for kids. So now I'm sitting on the rocket, okay? I'm in a seat like this. And beneath me, They're putting hydrogen and oxygen in a tank. And they're going to put a match to it momentarily. They're going to And I remember seeing the Hindenburg documentaries. You know, where the Hindenburg far down, and people are running from it, and the announcer is going, "Oh, the humanity of it all!" And we're all crying because we're seeing this great airship destroyed. You know how it was destroyed? Hydrogen. It went up the line that was anchoring it, static electricity, and lit some hydrogen in the back, and it exploded, and the ship, people died, the ship died, and everything, and all the humanity. And I'm lying there realizing they're putting hydrogen in a tank and oxygen. And I'm thinking, why am I doing this? Then it explodes. But it explodes in a conditioned way, and the rocket takes off, and it goes up. And it goes up faster and faster. And then it goes 2,500 miles an hour. And the G's in your seat, and I'm thinking, I don't know whether I could survive this, because I had walked up 11 flights of stairs, and to get up the gantry, I had walked up 11 flights of stairs at 4,000 feet altitude, and I felt, about after 5 flights, I'm going, and that's not a good picture for Captain Kirk. So I thought I had proven myself going up 11 flights, but here I am with 5 Gs, and I'm going up. And finally, we reach the apogee, and we're in weightlessness. And people have asked me, like, what's weightlessness like? What's weightlessness? There is a word for horse that entered the vocabulary of the Proto-Indo-European language. Way up on the steppes of Russia, where all our languages came from, fascinating, the word for horse appeared. So archaeologists figure, well, now that's when the horse, the domesticated horse, entered into people's lives, and they invented a word for it. So weightlessness really doesn't have a word for it. There's nothing we can describe, nothing I can describe, because during the 2 days of practice, of training, because what you had to do was in weightlessness. Now you're weightless, flying around, and you got your seat here. Now you're about to go down, and another 5 Gs, and if you don't get into this seat before those 5 Gs hit, you could be hurt, like die. And the whole idea here was to get this thing here, get this around here, pull down here, get your feet in here so you can press your body down. Meanwhile, your body wants it, no! And you clip in here, and then the thing I had the most difficulty was the crotch strap. It's a 5-point harness, and I'm trying to, and you're floating, and this thing here, and then the waist and the shoulder, and finally I get into it. But prior to getting into that seat, I'm in weightlessness, and I'm looking out the window. And the window's big. Window's like about that big. And I'm looking out the window, weightless, like the other guys wanted to play games. We'll go, and they'll say, and we'll get, no. I'm going to be looking out the window. So I'm looking down here, and the skin of the earth, air, is 50 miles wide. There's 50 miles of air, starting with some density on Earth, and then it disappears about 50 miles above. And we're going 2,500 miles an hour. So you can imagine how quickly you go through the air, which is how we stay alive. And boom, there was like a hole in the blue air where the spaceship had gone, like a submarine, like the wake was, the water was now coming back to fill that hole where the submarine had been. This was a spaceship going through the air, and I'm looking down at a hole in the blue, and suddenly we're out of the blue, and I'm looking at blackness. I have had some things to do with the cosmos. I mean, I've been, talked to people, the universe, and black holes, and raging stars, and light that's coming from 13.8 billion years away, and a photon of light. Nobody knows what a photon of light is. Yeah, it's a photon of light. It's a particle. What do you mean it's a particle? Well, it's a wave. It's a wave and it's a particle. And nobody knows. They're all talking because there's all this black energy and black matter between. So nobody knows anything. They're just saying, oh, yeah, well, I think there is. I'm looking at black. None of the mystery of space is there. I'm looking, if anybody's been in a cave, when they close the door to the cave and the darkness is like, you could feel it like black wool, that's how black that was. That wasn't mystery and romance and little green men coming. Nothing. That was death. Death right there. And right here was life. And nurturing green and beige and white and all the nurturing things that we know of Mother Earth. Death, life. And then the most incredible feeling, because I'm the age I am, and so statistically, I'm going to die before anybody else in this audience, okay? Now, you may die before me, but it's highly unlikely, okay? I'm going to die before you. So the idea of death is very there. Again, in the album Bill, I write about loneliness, and the last line of the poem of the song of loneliness, will there be anybody there at the end, is the last line. That the extreme loneliness of dying. I mean, we're born alone and we die alone, and so who knows? I'm looking at the earth and this great feeling of sadness. And I don't know why, because I've been immersed in the ecology of the earth and the bewilderment of how it was made and where life came from and then how things evolved. But particularly, I feel so strongly about the beauty of the way the earth is, even then, way back, millions of years ago. But now, there is such beauty and such magic about the world. I mean, I like to read, and I was reading a book about trees. And I read this. There's such a thing as a mother tree, and the mother tree, which has spun out the seeds over the many years, is surrounded by its children. And the mother tree sends out its roots to help its children. It also, when it's attacked by beetles, sends out a pheromone. We know that. So downwind, essentially the tree is saying, I'm being attacked, prepare, make your sap more toxic because the beetles are here. And not the group, not the musicians. But we've discovered something more recent. Underneath the ground, here, all over the world, there's a lattice work, mycelium. It's from fungus. It's where the fruit of that mycelium are mushrooms. When the conditions are right, up pops a mushroom. You think, oh, look at that magic. What's his name who wrote her? Sherlock Holmes said, oh, look, it's fairies. And he had this whole theory that the mushrooms were fairies. I mean, they're not. Mycelium and a lattice work probably all over the world. The trees send out an electrochemical signal using the mycelium as a conduit, like an electrical wire. And I was talking to a brain expert. I'm doing a talk show called I Don't Understand. Nobody. And I said, doesn't that remind you of the human brain? We have a latticework of nerves in our brain, synapses, like the mycelium. And we send an electrochemical signal through all that latticework to make us human. How similar is the human to the tree? The connection is so obvious. The connection to everything is so obvious. We humans belong on Earth, and Earth belongs to us and to all the other entities. And I've looked at this for all these years, and I felt such sadness that elephants, lions, tigers, hippos, all these magnificent animals are disappearing. I mean, within a child here in the audience's life, they'll be gone. They'll be gone. Why, my God? And I was so sad over that. When I got down on ground, I started weeping, and I don't know why. I was flooded, like you might be. Some of you might understand when I say maybe it's great love or great sorrow floods your whole being. You can't think of anything else. You're like swimming in the emotion. And that's what I was when I landed. All I could think of was this great sadness over the destruction of what we're doing to our earth. And so I apparently talked about it. I don't have much memory of it. But it played a chord on everybody's consciousness that what we have got to do, and Canada in many ways is in the forefront of it, and also in the back as well in some areas, of cleaning up the earth immediately. That was the kind of message I got from all that we must take care of Gaia, which is Mother Earth. Thank you very much, everybody.
Just talk about it.